And thanks for pressing play on this video. I'm so looking forward to this. Today on the show, joined by a Guinness World Record holder, a CFL themed Guinness World Record, and also somebody, a CFL fan, looking to break that Guinness World Record. And I have always had a fascination with the Guinness Book of World Records. For about 15 years as a kid, that is what I got for my birthday, that big shiny book. I looked forward to it every December. And then Don Cherry's Rock'em Sock'em Hockey, which I still do have a soft spot for that as well. So we'll start with Bobby Dubeau. He's a co-host on Coast to Coast CFL with Justin McInnes. Now, you set the record last year. Where did the idea come from to go for this anyway?
Well, I was trapped in Montreal. And I was going to an Alouettes game. I think it was definitely during Hurricane Fiona. I was trying to come out east and went to the Alouettes game and eventually saw my flights canceled. The Red Blacks were playing in Ottawa the next day. I have family out there. So I said, let's do both of these over the weekend. And then I thought it'd be cool to go to every stadium. The only other stadium I've been to before was Regina and BC, of course. So I planned the trip. I found like a pretty tight section of the schedule when it was released, and then I thought, like, hey, like, there's a guy who did it for the NFL. He spent a lot of money, spent a lot of time. This is 9 stadiums, and maybe we can have like a Canadian version of it. So I actually invented the record, I guess. Definitely wasn't the first person probably to do this. I was just the first person to pitch Guinness on it. And you either pay a lot of money to get an answer right away, or you pay $10 to hear back in 3 months. And I paid the $10, and about 2 days before my trip started, they said, go for it. So it was a pleasant surprise. I was doing it anyway, but it was kind of surreal to get that. Like, you think Guinness, like you said, it's this book you grow up with, and they're probably in some black tower somewhere in Ireland, and they read my letter and they said, yeah, sure, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, of course, the record is going to a game in each CFL stadium in the shortest amount of time. So it's a process where you kind of have to notify them of this. And how long did you wait? Like, that's pretty close. 2 days before the trip starts, you're like, I'm going to do it anyway. But it'd be nice to have this being official, you know?
They say like 12 weeks or something like that. And I heard like 11 weeks, 6 days, 23 hours and 45 minutes kind of thing. So, once the record was over, they were quicker to get back to me as I was submitting evidence back and forth to them. So they got a lot of things. There's a lot of people that pay a lot of money to do like promotions with them and sell tickets for their events. There was world's largest event of this or whatever. So those guys get priority, and the little guys like us have to wait.
In middle school, I always thought I could have the world's largest snowball fight. And I do know that some people would get injured in the process, but I always thought that would be the funnest thing to do. Now, of course, going to the stadium it's a process. It's a big country to travel across. But were there any like rules that you had to do like to make this official? I think I ran into you at McMahon Stadium last year. I guess I stand out wearing Ryder green with the red seats and the blue seats, but that was a cool chance. And you told me about the record then and a little bit about it, but what were the rules that you needed to satisfy to make the record official?
The main part was just being at the game from start to finish, which at some games like Montreal, when you have a delay of 2 hours, and if it's 3 hours, the game doesn't start. Could be an issue. There's games where you go to Winnipeg and BC's blowing them out by 40 points as they do, I guess. And everybody wants to leave, and I have to have witnesses stay at the game.
Well, the witnesses have to stay too.
They have to be there from start to finish as well. So there were a few games. The Edmonton game, I was lucky to have some Argo fans who were willing to stay the whole game, because those Elks, I don't know. I respect those fans that sit through those Elks games for the last few years, as well as the Red Blacks. But the main thing was getting the witness statements. I needed video from start and then every hour until the end of the game. Those were the main ones. They wanted like a itinerary, tickets and stuff, which is kind of, I don't know. Your video of me at the game AI wasn't as advanced as it is right now back then. So I thought it was enough, and luckily they did too.
Now, Bobby is the current Guinness World Record holder. This feat of visiting all 9 CFL stadiums in the shortest amount of time. Chris Tymofichuk is setting across to do it right now. He's in the middle of the attempt. Chris, were you directly inspired by Bobby's attempt, or where did your idea really come from?
Oh, absolutely. You've heard him speak. I mean, anybody would be inspired by Bobby. Um, no, it was when the media picked up on it last year, and everybody kind of started following Where's Bobby at the later stadiums, because he really did do it quietly, and then it grew into something. I thought that is really cool. That's fun. I mean, travel and CFL, travel within Canada, two of my favorite things. Like, who wouldn't want to do that, right? So kind of parked it for a while, and then when the league sent the schedule out, took a quick look at it and said, yeah, I think this can work. And it had to review about 3 or 4 times, make sure, yeah, I'm not double counting anything. This is going to work, and then do the logistics. And really, it was meant to be a fun thing, right? And Bobby has been A1 supporter and fun. All of his previous articles and that, there's lots of tips and hints that he spoke about. So I've sort of taken that and had an idea of what to expect. Guinness has come out with a full due diligence list, much greater than probably what he had. Some of the new things they've included, I have to carry a GPS with me the entire time, and provide them with a full GPS readout that proves I was in all of those stadiums. But same thing, eyewitness statements, a journal, the video evidence. Bobby can speak to it. It's fun, but it's a lot of work to get everything done into Guinness. I mean, they are Guinness, right? They're the top of the pile.
Now, obviously, records are made to be broken, but Bobby, I'm sure you thought your record would stand for a little bit longer.
I used like a 3-day weekend. It was over Canada Day weekend where there were only 3 games. So I always knew if there was perfectly lined up, you'd be able to beat it. And I think there's a couple opportunities this year to beat it. So again, I was doing the trip anyway. The record was good to have, but I think everybody should do this, whether it's in 15 days or not. It's definitely something that I would say a true Canadian could really enjoy over a CFL season.
So I think, Chris, as it stands, if everything goes according to plan, you would beat the record by about 90 minutes. How did that shake out for it to go that way?
So the big difference is, I believe Bobby started in the Eastern time zone. My start was in Winnipeg, so it was an hour and a half later. So that's where the 90-minute window comes from. We both finished essentially in the same days. But he's always going to be first. He's the one that said it. He will be the first one to get it. Nothing's going to change that. And like he said, I think there are other opportunities. There may be other fans that are even doing it later this year and in future years. And I hope there's always an opportunity each year that the league sets it up that this can happen. Would love to see it become a CFL fan tradition every year.
Yeah, I saw you guys. They showed you on the broadcast the BC Lions Saskatchewan Roughriders game in Week 6 in Vancouver. Now it's a pretty exclusive club, the fraternity of CFL Guinness World Record attempters and holders. This is an exclusive club that I bow down to. This has always been a dream of mine. It might be something I have to go with, although I don't like airports. I can't stand them. So for both of you to go put yourself through that is very impressive. Bobby, I'll ask you first. Were there any moments where you could have missed the flight, or did everything go smoothly? There had to be some adversity.
I think the smoothest part was maybe the flights. I was very lucky. I was reading about thousands of flights getting canceled all summer, and none of them were mine. The biggest things that I had to worry about was, again, thunderstorms in Montreal on Canada Day, or Moving Day, I guess is what they call it there.
Yeah.
And Edmonton, there was a smoke. There was an air quality issue, and it might not have gone off there either. So I I don't know if we've seen a game be canceled due to air quality. They have a rule, and the
Yeah.
air quality is always higher or worse on the scale, but they always find a way to get the game in for some reason. So, yeah, weather. On the last game, I had friends and family coming. You're trying to coordinate everybody to
Yeah.
get to the stadium. Why do we have to be there an hour early? Like I was made sure. Like I got to Edmonton when they opened the gates. I was at every game, depending if I was doing media or not. So I was taking advantage of the $5 beers before pregame. But
Nice.
I was making sure to get there as early as I can, and then uh, stay to the final whistle.
Now, Chris, you're kind of in the tricky leg of the record attempt right now. So far, has everything gone smoothly for you?
So far, it has. Like Bobby says, the flights have gone on time. As long as 2 and out doesn't keep me too long, there'll be no danger of catching today's flight to get to the Regina game. So that's probably the biggest hazard I have right now. That we don't have the smoke issues.
Yeah.
And fun fact, last year I was at that game in Montreal with a thunderstorm. Didn't realize Bobby was there at the same time, but small world sometimes.
That is cool. It's crazy to think about some of the outside factors. You know, the storm delays and things like that could really throw a wrench into the plans. Like, if I remember correctly, the Montreal Saskatchewan game that was called off in the second half because of this long storm delay a couple of years ago. Would that mean that the record would just be wiped out? Like if the game didn't go a full 60 minutes, Bobby?
I think it had to get to the middle point of the third quarter to be
Wow.
considered an official game. Otherwise, I think they do like a bonus overtime in their second meeting or something like
Hmm.
that. So, um, yeah, that was my only concern, I guess, when I was waiting for that delay to start the game, and then there was more thunderstorms coming in. So I was like, okay, let's just get to this halfway point of the third quarter. And I would think as long as the league calls it a game, hey, I was there for like we both were there for 6 hours, 7 hours in the pouring
Yeah.
rain. Uh, I was think as long as the league calls it deems it official, I think Guinness would deem it official as well.
I love that. I love that. Now, I'll ask you, Chris. I've seen you at several Grey Cups wearing that 85 Milt Stegall jersey. Now you've got a special jersey for this trip. Are you washing it? Uh, like, is it going to come complete with your scent after the trip? Or is this, it's a one of a kind item. Like, you have plans for this jersey afterwards. So tell us about that.
We do, and maybe the answer to your question, Travis, is TBD. We'll put the poll out there whether fans want it to be authentic and real as per the attempt, or do we want to get it dry clean and nice and clean for that? Either way, we're going to make it available at in November during Grey Cup week at the CFL Fans Fighting Cancer event. Hopefully, we can auction it off to somebody who would like a little bit of memorabilia and raise some more funds for our favorite charity.
Yeah, let's get into that now, because the way that this CFL Fans Fight Cancer event has grown over the past, I'll even say 4 years. I've gone to it almost a dozen times, but man, the way that the fans and the creative juices have been flowing with new ways to raise money for this, it's just every Saturday at Grey Cup, a grassroots group of CFL fans get together and raise money for local cancer organizations in the Grey Cup host city. And last year, I became a part of the show. I'll put pictures on YouTube. I did not expect to have my rematch with Peter Diakowski, Argo's legend. Sorry, Ticats legend, in a Timbit eating contest. I originally took him on during the lost COVID season virtually on Zoom. And we raised about $1,000, over $1,000 for the Chris Knox Foundation in Regina. And now there's a fantasy league. There are year-long events raising money for CFL Fans Fight Cancer, and Chris has really made it his mission to put this even more on the map. So talk about that, Chris, and the attention and maybe the questions you've been getting asked about CFL Fans Fight Cancer.
Yeah, you're right. It's a grassroots effort from the fans across the league. You talked about some of the events. It started out just during Grey Cup week. It has grown to year long. We've seen golf tournaments. We've seen trivia contests, all sorts of things where people just want to make a difference. So when I started out, I thought, yeah, let's see if we can raise a couple dollars. Maybe we can get $20 a game or something, and we'll add that to the kitty. And it is something that has morphed into something much bigger than just this record attempt. In the 3 cities I've been in, I've had people coming up telling stories of cancer survivor. There was a lady in BC that came up and said, I'm going for surgery on Friday. Here's my donation. Thank you for doing that. So it has become something much bigger. And as the media has sort of shared the story and it's grown, each city seems to be coming into this with even more support. And we're 1/3 in. We still got 2/3 to go. So I'm really expecting Regina this weekend, Hamilton and Calgary to really step up, and then the eastern cities after that.
Man, that is so amazing. I think in the years that the event has been running, I think they're nearing, if not over, 100K raised over the years. Are you collecting in person? Do you have a link that we should be sharing on the show, or how's that all going right now?
We do. And, we should give a shout out to the Hamilton fans last year at Grey Cup. They set the record. They raised $40,000, over $40,000. The Vancouver team this year said, we're going to beat that. And they're on their way. They are over $12,000 already before sort of we even get into the fall season. I'm going to be carrying around the bucket, right? It's as simple as a plastic bucket and people coming up and putting in pennies, quarters, dollars, loonies. We take American money. It's whatever people are feeling good about donating. And it's just been fantastic. In addition, there's a website. It's childhoodcancerresearch.org/fundraising/CFL-FFC. They can Google it. They can go to the CFL Fans Fighting Cancer Facebook page. All of it will take to a link for this, and all of the funds raised go to the charity of choice, which is the Michael Cuccione Foundation in Vancouver.
Now, at the beginning of the show, I did show your X handle, XPager, and I'm dusting it off right now because I look at it every day. Last year, there was the CFL Fantasy Group that set out to raise hundreds for CFL Fans Fight Cancer, and I was able to receive this exclusive pin that I keep with me at all time. And there were dozens of these traveling around Grey Cup in Hamilton last year, with people celebrating that they beat you in fantasy. In the process, raising money for CFL Fans Fight Cancer. Like, are you having a better year? I can promise you're probably doing better than me.
It was funny. There were people celebrating, even though they finished, in 50th place out of everything. They were ahead of me by a spot, and that was as good as winning the whole thing. That's the sense I got. So people have certainly glamped onto this fun, trying to beat XPager. I started off very poorly. I think I started in 92nd position out of 95. And I just said, I'm giving everybody a head start. And now we're up to 45th place. So we're coming. But as you know, it's very, very competitive and tough to move up.
Yeah, it's an exclusive club. If you have one of those buttons to add to your jersey at Grey Cup, it's definitely nice. Bobby, you're a BC Lions fan. I've seen you wear that BC Lions Hawaiian shirt. I'll ask you, how you feeling overall about your team so far? We have to talk a little bit of on-the-field stuff.
Yeah, started off great. Bombers performed just they couldn't have performed worse if you're them, right? So yeah. They gave the Lions a nice little head start. They seem to be rounding into form now, so there could be a little showdown. I know they got 2 games coming up over the next few weeks. But other than that, Saskatchewan, once they get Harris back, there's a lot of good teams in that West Division, and some of these games are decided by just a few points. Sure, they're up there in the standings, but there's a few teams that could be giving them some trouble through the rest of the year. Even Calgary gave them a tough shot, and who knows what kind of Edmonton team shows up the rest of the year. So it's not over yet. Nobody gets the Grey Cup in the middle of July. But if they did, the Lions would have a good shot at it, I guess.
Hey, lots of fans thought the Riders won the Grey Cup in February after free agency, so it's not too crazy to plan the parade in July. I'll ask you about the podcast, Coast to Coast CFL. How did you get into that and start talking the league? I love it.
Well, this is kind of what got me back into watching the CFL. I took maybe like a 10-year hiatus during, I guess you'd call it the Travis Lulay years. Nothing against him, but that's just the Lions quarterback that I never really saw many games of. I got back into it because it's not like the NFL where you're competing against billions of dollars to kind of make a few bucks putting some dollars on games, right? So I found to be pretty profitable at it. There's people that give out picks and I don't really understand what their logic is. So Andrew McInnes had a podcast last year, and I don't know if you noticed, but he called it 2 and Out. And we got in touch in Halifax. I was in town for Touchdown Atlantic, and I said, hey, let's think of something to do here. And over the summer or over the spring, he proposed doing a weekly podcast, and I said, there's one condition. We're not calling it 2 and Out because there's only one 2 and Out CFL podcast here. So we came up with Coast to Coast, which is probably an even bigger name of a radio show down south. But I don't think
you
really
might get some of those guys looking for Art Bell clips or something.
Yeah,
like
we'll put some alien, some shadow people talk, maybe in the description.
I'm totally in for that. Chris, you're a Bomber fan. I mean, at heart, you got the Stiegel jersey all the time that I see you. The Bombers started off slow, starting to get some wins together. You're going to be in Regina Friday Night Football against the Rough Riders, which is kind of weird to talk about that pre-Labor Day. You Bomber fans, pretty spoiled. 4 straight Grey Cup appearances, 2 straight losses. That, of course, hurts. But the Bomber fans I talk to, they're still in a state of disbelief since 2019. It's like, what is this unfamiliar feeling? But once struggles come, I'm sure that feeling wears off in a hurry. How are you assessing the team right now?
I mean, you gotta think we were going to come down, right? We were four straight years, like you say, Grey Cup appearance. They were going to come down at some time. I don't think anyone saw an 0-4 start. We were hoping it'd be a little more gentle, but they seem to be back on now. And who would have known that a game against the Riders in July this early would have such implications? This is a big one. Usually we're talking Labor Day when it really starts, but this weekend, Friday night is going to matter to both teams. Saskatchewan coming off their emotional loss against BC, and Winnipeg with some momentum now. This could be July Labor Day feel to it for sure.
Well, I am so glad that I was able to find a time that worked for me and worked for you guys to come on and talk about the Guinness World Record. I've never been in the same, even virtual room as a Guinness World Record holder and soon to be, hopefully, if things go smoothly, Guinness World Record breaker. So this has been so fun to talk to you, Bobby and Chris. I'll leave the links in the description for the CFL Fans Fight Cancer virtual bucket, and then the literal bucket that you can find at stadiums with Chris. Bobby, thanks for coming on the show. Best of luck with the podcast. And hey, records are made to be broken, as we are finding out. Would this ever be on your list to do again, Bobby?
I don't really get along politically with with one of the major airlines in Canada, so I'm still on strike against one of them. But I don't think I'll try and do it again. I'd love to go back and tailgate at every stadium because I kind of had to keep my focus for these games. But again, like I give all my respect to Chris. Like he's using these powers for good, as I've
Yeah.
said in my interview with JJ Adams. He's doing a great thing here, and I look forward to seeing him in November at Grey Cup week.
I wonder if the new record could be the fastest time visiting all stadiums and attending a game by car. That would be a challenge, traveling across this great nation. Chris, thanks so much for coming on the show. Hopefully the rest of the record attempt goes smoothly, and thanks for doing what you do, raising the awareness and putting some really good things behind this attempt and drawing more attention to CFL Fans Fight Cancer. I almost wonder if at some point we almost got to get like some sort of arena that can fit, 2,000 or 3,000 people, because the event is getting big. So thanks for doing this, and best of luck the rest of the way.
I appreciate that, and I just want to say this is more about one person trying to do it. This is about collective CFL fans gathering around a really good cause, and people are stepping up. So thanks to them as well for all of that.
Yeah, this is just amazing. That's Bobby Dubeau and Chris Tymofichuk setting across the country to break a Guinness World Record. Thanks for joining us for this special add-on edition of Two and Out.